try it again, sorry.
You want to plug this in?
No, don't plug in.
Okay. So, good evening. It's a little cold. So, we had gotten to rational analysis. That rational analysis, chapter 12.
Yes, rational.
Yes, Darren, rational analysis.
156.
So, rational analysis. So, what Tsongkhapa is pointing out here is that when you are, he goes in very deeply in when you are trying to analyze to establish whether something exists ultimately, you are analyzing ultimately, and the analysis that takes place establishes the lack of ultimate existence of a phenomenon. It does not negate the existence or establish the non-existence of the phenomenon. And so this chapter is really dispelling the misconceptions of some who claim that that the view, the Madhyamika view, is that phenomena do not actually exist because of this negation of their ultimate existence. So, within rational analysis, showing that the Madhyamika critique does not eradicate conventional existence. So I should go on to explain that when you are trying to establish whether something exists conventionally, you have to use conventional analysis. And so if you want to know whether this flower exists, you use your eye consciousness, and eye consciousness is a valid conventional analyzer that can establish that the flower exists. This conventionally existent flower does in fact exist. If you scrutinize to see whether among its parts there is an inherently existent flower there, you are scrutinizing not by means of conventional analysis, but by means of ultimate analysis, which will establish, which will not find any ultimately existent or intrinsically existent or independently existent flower. That non-findability of an intrinsically or ultimately existent flower is not the negation of a flower altogether. And that's, this chapter is really devoted to establishing that. Let me see, I have some notes from this that might. So it's important to be very clear about just what type of analysis we are engaging in, conventional or ultimate. The conventional valid cognition will establish the existence of the conventional phenomenon, the conventional thing. The ultimate valid knower our cognition will establish whether something exists ultimately. So if something is found to exist ultimately, then it is, we can say that it exists independently. If we are scrutinizing whether something exists ultimately and we find something to exist, then we have to acknowledge that it actually exists ultimately. That is to say that it is able to, when we analyze, it is able to withstand this ultimate analysis. So the analytical tool that we use for establishing things conventionally are our sense consciousnesses. We can establish the existence of a sound by ear, or smell by the nose, etc. And those, I think that what Tsongkhapa is really trying to say is, don't mix up these two things. One of the criteria that Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti puts forward is that this philosophy of emptiness, this middle way view, the Madhyamika view, should not contradict our regular perceptions. In other words, as we go through life and we see a flower, we taste tea, we smell whatever. The philosophy that they are teaching is not in any way contradicting that. The conventional stuff exists and should be seen, but it should be seen to be conventional. It is seen to be something that can be established by conventional analysis, i.e., by our sense consciousnesses. The ultimate is not establishing whether conventionalities, conventional phenomena, things exist or not. The ultimate is establishing whether or not those phenomena exist at some ultimate independent level. So I'm sorry, I know that I've repeated myself 3 times, but Tsongkhapa repeats this many times here. I don't know whether, basically, as I say, that is the topic of this particular chapter.
Is this chapter 11 or 12?
12.
12. I confused. That's okay.
So, so what I thought might be useful is to sort of put this into context of where we are. Why are we thinking about these things? We're getting into more and more minute details about ultimate existence versus conventional existence, ultimate phenomena existing, able to be scrutinized by an ultimate analysis rather than and by conventional. Why are we getting into this? What is the purpose of Tsongkhapa, of Chandrakirti, of Buddha Palita, of Nagarjuna, going into such detail. And I should say that all the things that we're talking about are dealt with, are put forward in the Heart Sutra that we just read, when the Buddha Avalokiteshvara explains to Shariputra how to engage in this meditation, and specifically says form is empty. So how should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? Whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Form is empty. Emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form, and form is not separate from emptiness. All the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. So he's setting Shariputra up to analyze phenomena not on the conventional level, but on the ultimate level, to establish whether or not they have characteristics, whether or not they exist independently from their own side. So the scrutiny that he's putting forward is that ultimate analysis. Why do we engage? What is the purpose of engaging in this ultimate analysis? So to go back to, let's say, the beginning, why are we here? Why have you come here? What has brought you to the Tibet Center, to what is this place called? Why are you here at the university settlement? Illumination. So illumination, we can find in an illumination shop.
How about reaching our noose? N-O-U-S.
What's a noose?
Noose. Noose.
Oh.
Ultimate
How do you spell noose?
And not the other one.
So,
You know, right. He also.
so the I think it helps to acknowledge, to recognize that which might have brought us here, which I think is probably a recognition of a certain dissatisfaction with life, noticing that there's something, there should be something beyond our indulging our senses in the normal way that we are, that life tends to lead us to do, and our society leads us to do, and beginning to notice the first of the Four Noble Truths that the Buddha taught, the truth of suffering, the fact that though we can recognize the suffering of suffering, that even when we're enjoying life, that joy comes to an end, and we become dissatisfied, we become frustrated, we become unhappy, and so we seek some kind of freedom from our situation of dissatisfaction, frustration, pain, whatever. And it may not be a sort of a raw pain, but it's definitely a recognition of the fact that things aren't the wonderful, or going the wonderful way that we sort of dream that they might. And I came to the Tibet Center, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, when I was 23 years old. I think that's right. You were 33.
I'm 30.
And
He's younger.
It's about by 10 years.
You're younger. Tony.
I'm younger than Tony, imagine.
I'm older than water.
And in those days, I sort of thought that I had a long life before me that probably wouldn't really end. I mean, there was this idea that we die, but it seemed sort of
Yeah.
off in the distance. And I went off to become a monk, definitely immersing myself in a path that acknowledged that there was suffering, that things weren't as great as they should be, but still. That's quite a fun.
There's a cover charge.
That's a special sound. Thank you. That was.
Sorry.
No, that was nice. Sort of like this flower, a little bit of sound. Anyway, I remember the then abbot of Loselling, where I was studying. There was this magazine that we were putting together called Dreloma, and Drepung Loselling magazine, and in the first issue, they published Ling Rinpoche's prayer for the spread of the Dharma throughout the length and breadth of the West. And we didn't have much material. And so the abbot, Rizong Rinpoche, gave us poems that his predecessor, the previous Rizong Rinpoche, had written. And one of them was about an old monk. It was talking about himself, who as a young man felt that he was full of vitality. And then as he got older and older, he would forget to blow his nose and he was all messy. And I remember thinking, oh, no, I'm not going to get there. And at 69, I'm getting there, and the body hurts. And
I don't know how old you were. You just said it.
He's 79.
Yes, I got it.
Still there. Be careful. At any minute.
I keep trying to get closer to his age, but I don't. So these things, it's important to feel them, to acknowledge them, to know them, because they are our impermanence should be a motivator for engaging with vitality in this life. I assure you, as I get along, that it's really important to devote yourself to your practice when you have strength, because you get weaker and weaker and weaker. Though, yes, you get more motivated in a certain way, the vitality is not there. And so that's bringing this back to what I began by talking about, which is why we're here and how this emptiness stuff relates to why we're here. When we analyze, when we try to figure out how we should proceed along our path, what we're looking for is the reason that we are in this situation, and to see if we can actually remove the reason so that we aren't afflicted in the way that we are. And 2 days ago, I went for a walk. I realized that I have to walk. I came into town with Tony this evening. And I said, listen, I've got to walk from the PATH train to here because I have to just force myself to exercise a little bit. I dumped poor Tony and walked here, got here faster than he did on the subway.
New York City subway, wins again.
But the other day I went for a walk in South Orange in New Jersey, and I walked to the center of the little village, and there were these three Jehovah's Witnesses standing in front of their little stand, and I had gone to this little gazebo next to the train station where Trungla Rinpoche used to feed the pigeons. There weren't any pigeons. There were far fewer pigeons than there used to be. Anyway, I sat there, and then I looked back, and these three people were standing there, and so I got up and spoke to them and asked them some questions about the path that they were providing information about. And they started telling me about how we suffer as a result of the original sin that we're born with. And we're born with that original sin because Eve ate the forbidden fruit. God had said, don't eat this fruit. You can eat that fruit and you can eat that fruit. And the man said to me, it's like children, if you say to them, you can't have this pie, you can have this pie, but you can't have this pie, they're going to eat this pie. And he said it was the same with the fruit, and Eve ate the fruit. And he said it wasn't an apple. It's apparently not an apple. Apples are fine. And anyway, he explained that if we, so we're born with this sin. And I said, well, why do we have to put the blame of our situation on Eve? You just said that the child goes for the pie that he's not meant to have just because he was told not to have that one. Isn't that, why do we have to put the blame on Eve? He said, well, because the original stepping away from what God said to do was done by Eve, and that's what we're born with. And if you think about it, I believe in translating these things into our belief system, and it translates very well. Though I remember once I was in Bangalore. There was this man. He was a Brahmin, and he was married, and he had a child. And but he wanted his child, though there were these very good sort of Hindu schools. He wanted his child to go to this Catholic school because he thought that the child would have a better education. And apparently the Mother Superior, who was the head of the Catholic school, was really hard to get to. Just to get into her office to submit the application for this very bright little child, he just wasn't able to get by the other nun who was like the secretary to the Mother Superior. And so for some reason, mutual friends said, Nikki, maybe you could get the application through to the Mother Superior. And so I thought, okay, I'll try. And I went, and of course, the nun sitting outside said, please, let me right into it. And I walked into the Mother Superior's room, and she said, well, how can I help you? And I said, well, would you accept this application for a friend? And she was forced to, because I was standing in front of her. And as this was going on, I was able to get the father of the child into the office, and I let him sort of continue. But outside the window, I could hear this American voice of this, what is it, sort of like a fanatic Christian fundamentalist, evangelical, who was saying to all these young Indian children, now we're going to pray. Everyone get on their knees. So everyone got on their knees. All these kids and he started to lead them in prayer, saying, God, relieve me of the sin that I was born with. Relieve me of the, how do you say the sin that I was born with? What's the original sin. And he had this, I can remember his microphone because I looked out of the window at this guy who was leading all these kids. And I thought, my goodness, the whole idea of original sin is not so nice. And when the father of the little girl came out of the office, I said, look at this. Do you really want your daughter to be submitted to this indoctrination about her having been born with original sin? He said, yes. I said, no, you don't. He said, yes, very good education. And I thought, okay, all right. So I've done my bit. And the girl got in, and she's done very well, apparently, and all that. But the point is that concept of original sin can be translated into our having from beginningless time this grasping at a sense of self. What's the difference? And it is out of this grasping at self that we are born with, that comes from Eve, definitely, I'm sure, that comes from, there is our stream of consciousness, which has no beginning, because each moment of consciousness has to have as its cause a similar quality of clarity and knowing. And you cannot have clarity and this knowing quality of the mind caused from something other than that, and therefore it has to come from something of the same nature, which would be a prior moment, which would be a prior moment, which would be a prior moment ad infinitum. And so along with this consciousness of this stream of consciousness, each moment identifies itself as a being, as having this quality, this property of independent, inherent existence, out of which come the attributes such as wishing to protect oneself, wishing to indulge or to please. And of course we have transmigrated from universe to universe and from life to life and from form to form, over, if we really can get our minds around the idea of beginningless time, we've been at this for a long time. And the tendencies of holding on to a sense of self and the tendencies of wishing to please and wishing to protect are, each moment of engaging in this strengthens the habit, strengthens the tendency, strengthens. These are all, when we really explore the laws of cause and effect, the laws of karma, and we see how an action leads us to engage in the similar action. When we're talking about actions, when we talk about karma, it's really mental actions we're talking about. But the mental actions that accompany our physical actions, that motivate our physical actions, every time we indulge them, we develop the tendency to do so further. We every time we get angry, for example, we it is easier to get angry. Every time we get feel proud or arrogant or with our knowledge or our ability, that it's an easier thing to repeat. And these are only the results of actions that have a similar quality to the action itself. They're also the ways in which our actions will affect our physical form from life to life, the ways in which our actions will affect our environment from life to life, but most importantly, the ways in which our actions will affect our tendency to act in this way in the future, in future lives. So we are very much born with what we individually can consider our own original sin. It's every when we engage in meditations such as exchanging self for others, which is the method by which we generate the bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment. We really work at recognizing the fact that every bit of suffering that we experience is the result of our past negative actions, our self-cherishing, and everything we experience is the result of the kindness of others. And really, in considering this is a meditation that any serious practitioner should engage in every morning. And it should lead us to a determination, if we recognize that all my unhappiness, all my difficulties are the result of my own having engaged in negative behavior, selfish behavior in the past lives we're talking about, and that everything I have comes from others. When I keep looking around, I mean, the fact that I'm sitting in this room, that it's comfortable and clean and decent and has light, and all of this, everything that we are experiencing here is due to the hard work of others. None of us is responsible for having built any of this stuff that we are experiencing and enjoying right now here. It's all the kindness of others. The way by which we got here, the subway that Tony took, the roads that I walked on, all of that is hard, extraordinarily hard work by others that make our society operate. So assuming, recognizing how we are responsible for the situation we're in, the good aspects and the bad aspects, is recognizing the cause of that original sin. It's not Eve, it's me. And that's very important. I debated with the what did I say they were? The Jehovah's Witnesses. But
Is it good to feel guilty?
is it good to
Feel guilty?
No.
I don't think, guilt is not a
That's a correct.
helpful thing. It's good to assume responsibility.
Yeah.
It's good I think it's very important. There are two things that are important. One is to assume responsibility for the situation that you're in. And the other is to realize that you have the capability of bringing about change. And both of those things are really important. And this brings us to this what we're studying now, because the mechanics that enable our situation, the mechanics that enable this the karmic process by which we are experiencing the result of our past actions, are made possible due to the fact that we aren't a stagnant, inherently independently existent phenomenon being. We are a dependent arising. And due to the fact that we are a dependent arising, we have the ability to actually exert ourselves and bring about change. So this is like the fulcrum. This is where we are, right there, experiencing the result of all that we've done in the past, and able to, due to the fact that there is no inherently existent being here, we are able to bring about changes that where we evolve in a positive way in the future. And this is the way it is. But the method by which we can actually we can engage in virtuous actions that will bring us happiness. We can engage in a process of engaging in the causes for our future happiness, being generous. Generosity has wealth. The fact that someone is wealthy is the result of his or her having engaged in generosity in the past. I mean, yes, working hard is important, and yes, people talk about good luck. I don't think there is such a thing as good luck. We can give the name good luck to someone who is experiencing the result of his or her virtuous, generous actions in the past. But it's not luck, it is someone's hard work. Remaining calm and patient in the face of someone getting angry, or provoking us, that ability has these ramifications. We become happier. We become more pleasant. Patience has a way of affecting us, affecting the environment around us, and these qualities accompany us, not just within this life, but into the future. So all of these, let's say, what are referred to as the method aspects of our practice, will help us in our future lives, in this life and in our future lives. But if we are going to actually get to the heart of the matter, and if we are going to actually work at how to extricate ourselves totally from the situation, there we have to actually uproot the cause of our being within this situation. And identifying the cause of our being within this situation is what Tsongkhapa did in this chapter of identifying the object to be negated. And as he's taken us through these chapters since there, we are coming to understand that how can we put this? That the idea of an inherently or independently existent self is impossible, given the fact that we are dependent arisings, that the interdependent qualities that make us up counter this notion of some kind of a self. And when we are able to, in meditation, actually arrive at a point where we not only experience or understand this interdependent quality of self, but we understand that due to the fact that there is this interdependent quality, there is no self. That if we're looking for that self that we identify with, that self that we really cling to, that self that we act on when we get angry, that we act on when we indulge in desires and things, that cannot exist, given that we are this dependent arising. That the dependent arising quality of self negates, counters the possibility of that self. And if we can really get there, if we can really identify and remain focused on that, we will dissolve. We can actually dissolve that sense of self. We're not just working at making our lives better. We're working at dissolving the basis for a life that has as its nature unhappiness or suffering or whatever. So that I felt that it was important to really understand why we're talking about the things that Tsongkhapa is focusing on. And the method by which we actually remove the sense of self, as I've said a few times over the last few weeks, is by remaining absolutely focused on the lack of such a self, using logic to come to recognize that there is no self, there cannot be a self. And when you actually go through the process of looking logically, you come to a point of seeing the non-existence of that self. And that seeing, experiencing at a deep meditational level, that non-existence, and remaining focused on that is what dissolves the natural tendency to grasp at it. I think I wrote. Sorry?
No. Well, yeah, I will ask the question, Nikki. Is that okay? You said about extreme generosity in a past life brings material wealth in this life, yeah?
Mhm.
So, like, let's say Michael Bloomberg has $96 billion. I was reading this today. Okay? Does that mean he was generous in one life so much that he would make that? And what about all the Rinpoches and great sages in past lives who are generous, in many ways? They don't, become billionaires. Like you're generous. I mean, lots of great things. Rinpoche, no, wait, Chumla Rinpoche was generous. He was not a billionaire. And his past lives for sure.
I'm not offering this to anyone. So, $96 billion.
Yeah, I read that. Bloomberg. 96 billion. It's obscene money. Who lives like that?
I don't quite understand what $1 billion would be.
Even billion. He's got 96.
Yes, and he takes the subway.
That's true.
And he's not spiritually illumined. Okay?
Well, karma works for everybody,
I know.
every sentient.
His
So-
charitable donations have been extremely.
Yes, environmental donations.
They're extreme, yeah.
We also.
Very good.
A lot of.
So,
So the mechanics of karma are we divide phenomena into four categories. There are the evident phenomena that we can see, the existence of this or this. These are the evident phenomena. And then there are the hidden phenomena by which we can come to understand by means of reasoning, such as emptiness. Emptiness is a hidden phenomenon which we cannot directly see, but that we can infer. And then there are the very hidden phenomena, such as the laws of karma. And karma is something we can generally say that wealth is the result of generosity. And however, to actually understand how each and every one of our actions leads to a particular result is not something that we can perceive and not something that we can logically establish. However, in a sort of general sense, the Bloomberg, Trump, anyone wealthy would not be able to have anything in this life, however they happen to behave. I mean, a gangster who robs a bank and walks out with $1 million and goes off and lives in, I don't know, Buenos Aires with all this money. I'm sorry, Buenos Aires.
We all probably, no extradition.
Yeah, okay. The ability of that person to walk into the bank, to take the money, to go off and be able to lead a very nice life is all the result of the way that person had behaved. Different aspects of the result of that, the fact that different aspects of the result of that are the results of different aspects of the way that person had behaved over many lifetimes. And for someone like Bloomberg to have the wealth that he has, and every aspect of what he engages in, the good actions that you were referring to, whatever it is that his behavior, his kindness in this, his patience as opposed to his lack of patience, whatever, all of those tendencies are the result of his actions over many lifetimes. And it's not necessarily that it's not that you can see a nice clear line of past actions that come to here. He could have been born in the meantime as an ant and worked as an ant as part of a community of ants and worn out the negativity that caused him to be an ant, so that he was then able to be reborn as a human being. And he worked hard as a young man to create an organization. What was it? It was some sort of like information for news and business news and business information. There was a service. I mean, it was a service that worked very well and that enabled different tentacles of the business world to operate more smoothly, and he reaped the benefits. So I don't know much about Bloomberg. I met him once. There was a Buddhist day that was held at Gracie Mansion, and so all the I'm sorry. I went. There was a Buddhist breakfast, but there was an Asian day that for some reason had as a Tibetan Buddhist monk I was invited to, and there were something like 450, 500 people at Gracie Mansion, and when we arrived, each person we got in a line, and we had to shake hands with the mayor, and a photograph was taken, and then by the end of it, the photograph was put into the this little nice looking frame, and we walked off with our photograph of ourselves with the mayor. And I can remember that the line came this way, then we had to go that way, and he shook hands, and I remember being yanked to this side.
Oh, God.
It was very efficient. And part of me thought, wow, gosh, that wasn't very nice. But then I realized that he was being effective. He was actually getting all these people, and he was ensuring that every single one would leave with a picture of themselves with him.
Still have a picture?
Someplace, yeah. A flood, we had flooding, and my storage unit has been flooded, so I don't know what survived. Maybe it survived.
Cherished item.
Yes, yeah. So what enables us to actually, a particularly unique feature of this tradition is that you're not simply working at developing the karma or the virtue to live well in the future, out of recognizing that cyclic existence itself has this nature of suffering. We are working at diminishing the causes for our engagement in cyclic existence, and cultivating the causes for bringing about our freedom from cyclic existence. And if we cultivate our compassion and our love for others to the point where we wish to attain a state where we can really benefit others, we are thereby generating the causes for attaining a state of omniscience, which is the state where we can be of most benefit to others. So that's a better understanding of just what it is that we're negating, how it is that we go about it, what it is that we are not negating, a misunderstanding of the object to be negated, the fact that we are not negating the self totally, negating our existence totally, would be a nihilistic understanding and would have negative consequences. Negating not enough will leave a quality of existence there, a quality of self there, and will never be able to actually bring about an end to our involvement in cyclic existence. So identifying this object to be negated, identifying this sense of self, which is the root cause of our involvement in cyclic existence. Each one of us is within the situation of suffering, the situation of cyclic existence, due to our clinging to a sense of self. That's if we want to remove that, we have to develop a perfect understanding of what that is, and then apply the techniques by which we dissolve it, which are to recognize that it doesn't actually exist. And understanding what does exist as opposed to what doesn't exist is vital in the process. So that's why Tsongkhapa put such effort into explaining these things as subtly as possible. So I strongly recommend that you have this book. I strongly recommend Geshe Sepa, who passed away a couple of years ago, from Madison, Wisconsin, wrote a wonderful commentary on this And it really explains it magnificently in English. And for anyone who's really interested in coming to understand what Tsongkhapa is teaching here, I recommend this and the commentary. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You got names?
So we shall read. There are many, many people to pray for as we recite the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels. I prostrate to the Omniscient One, thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the Buddha withings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavat, is really, it is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Yana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from virtues, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. the Sanghas virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure will. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Lesson?
All right.
Good luck.